Welcome to Boosting You, the ultimate wellness platform. And I'm Shirley Mclean.
I'm Dr. Peacock.
And today, I think we'll go through about the role of rest in self-care and why it's not the same as laziness.
Yeah,
Can we just bust this myth once and for all? Rest is not laziness.
absolutely. Completely agree with you, Shirley. If I had a pound for every time that somebody said that to me, I feel so bad for doing nothing. I could actually retire. Rest isn't optional, it's vital. It's biological self-care.
Yes, and yet so many of my clients wear that exhaustion like a badge of honor. It's almost like they need permission to stop. They'll say, but I haven't earned a break. And I just want to say, you don't need to earn rest. You're a human, not a smartphone on low battery.
Oh, absolutely, isn't it? And I think that the part of the problem, isn't it, is how we equate sort of productivity with worth, isn't it? People feel that they have to be doing something every single moment of the day to be valuable. But in psychology and in health, we know that rest isn't a reward, it's a requirement.
I often talk about active rest and passive rest. Sometimes it's sleep, but
Mhm.
other times it's just being in a quiet space, breathing or daydreaming out the window. It doesn't have to be a nap.
Yeah, totally. Rest comes in all shapes and sizes, and it could be mental rest, physical rest, emotional rest, and even switching off from social media accounts. Our brains need that space, don't they? I quite often ask my clients, when was the last time you were actually bored on purpose? And they laugh. But stillness is often what the nervous system needs to reset.
Yeah, it's a great question. And what really is interesting is how many people feel guilty when they do stop. Like their inner critic just pipes up, you're being lazy. How do you handle that when it comes up with your clients?
Yeah, it comes up all the time, doesn't it? I try and use sort of that simple reframing kind of technique where I ask, so would you call your friend really lazy if they said they were going to rest today because they were tired? And of course, the answer is always no, because we're always so much nicer and kinder to other people than we are ourselves.
Absolutely. And in hypnotherapy, I sometimes use visualization to help people feel rested. Like imagine floating on calm water or being cradled in a hammock, and it switches on that parasympathetic nervous system, the one that says you're safe, you can let go.
Oh, that just sounds wonderful, absolutely. And what we're doing there is giving people sort of that embodied permission to rest, aren't we? Because if our body doesn't believe it's safe to stop, then we stay in that chronic high alert state, don't we? Which is really bad for our long-term health.
Yeah, that fight or flight trap. I had one woman who said she'd only rested when everything on her to-do list was done. I said, so, never?
Yeah, that's just classic, isn't it? I hear that too, I think of it like this, you only charge your battery when it's completely dead. It doesn't last very long, but if we're topping it up regularly, it's much more reliable, isn't it? And we need those same top ups.
Love that analogy. And I think rest looks different for everyone. For some, it's a walk in nature, and for others, it's just sitting there quietly with that cup of tea, with no phone, no demands, just even 5 minute counts.
Yeah, it does. It makes a massive difference. I quite often recommend people sort of build in that sort of micro rest into their day, that quiet moment before a meeting, a pause between tasks. We don't always need a spa day, do we? As nice as they are, we just need that space to breathe.
Exactly. And the magic is, dun, 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 once people start resting more intentionally, they notice they actually become more productive, not less, because their brain is just not running on empty.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just restorative, isn't it? It's not indulgent. We find that we can be much more creative, much more focused, and let's not forget, more emotionally available to other people.
So if someone's, you know, thinking like, okay, I want to rest, but I don't know how, where do they start?
So I always say start small because we can always start with small things, and small things do make a difference. So even 5 minutes, set a timer, no screens, just sit there, stare into space, just breathe, let your mind wander, and just notice what happens without judging it.
I love that. And I also suggest people schedule rest into the diaries, which again, we repeated this, like they would a meeting, literally just block out time for not doing.
Yeah, absolutely, because rest is doing something, isn't it? It's doing exactly what our mind and body would need to do to keep going. So there's nothing lazy about that.
Here, here. So here's to reclaiming rest. No guilt, no shame, just permission to be human.
Absolutely. Rest is that kind of resistance to burnout, isn't it? It's the ultimate self-care strategy. And if you would like our rest planner, then go to our Boosting You Facebook page, send us a direct Facebook Messenger message, and give us your email address, and this will be winging its way to your inbox. So hopefully that will be helpful for you.
And that's bye from me then for now.
And bye from me.
Till next time, bye.